Just to recap what we know at this point, about 6 p.m. tonight, Iran began firing hundreds of ballistic missiles at the state of Israel. The state of Israel estimates that's 180 ballistic missiles. Iran apparently has suggested up to 400 ballistic missiles. That was 6 p.m. local time in Israel. The footage was astonishing. You can see the footage in the two box here, falling all over the state of Israel. The entire map of the state of Israel was covered in red alerts. I was getting calls. I was getting WhatsApps from all my friends in Israel talking about having to run to the shelters, take their kids into the shelters. Iran announced this was in retaliation for the death of Hassan Nasrallah, the terror head of Hezbollah. That is the Iranian proxy arm in Lebanon. Israel has thoroughly eviscerated Hezbollah. They've taken out Hassan Nasrallah. They've taken out nearly the entire upper echelon of Hezbollah. They've moved into southern Lebanon. It turns out they've been performing extraordinary operations in southern Lebanon for the last year to empty out terror capacity in southern Lebanon. And now they're moving full scale into southern Lebanon, presumably over the course of the next few days, to rid it once and for all of Hezbollah presence. Iran, in an attempt to demonstrate that they have some level of a credible force left in the Middle East, fired this very large barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel. Because of Israel's defense capacity, because of its allies, 0 people have died. The only person who was killed in all of this, one person has died, not 0. One person died. The one person who was killed in all of this was a Gazan refugee in the West Bank city of Jericho. So the Iranians were aiming at the Jews and they hit a Gazan Palestinian. The entire map, again, of Israel lit up red. That includes the West Bank, in which 2 million Arabs live. And of course, there are 2 million Arabs who live inside the state of Israel as well. Once again, when it comes to Iran, they do not care one fig about their supposed Palestinian allies. All they care about is using those Palestinian allies as a weapon against the state of Israel. Israel, at this hour, has announced that there will be a massive retaliation. This will not go unchallenged, unlike the first time back in April when the Biden administration talked Israel out of a harsher action and Israel fired a piece of high-tech ordnance that was designed to deter Iran. This time, Israel has said they are going to go after whatever they need to go after. Presumably, they'll mean going after the oil refineries in Iran or after nuclear facilities in Iran, or perhaps using intelligence capabilities to do something unexpected, the way that they used Operation Grim Beeper in Lebanon to defenestrate half of the Hezbollah upper echelon in Lebanon, and then used the radios to blow up the other half. So what we are watching right now is Israel flex muscle. Iran is desperate. That's the reason they had to get invested in this thing directly. The reason they have now fired twice massive missile barrages directly at the state of Israel is because their proxies are being taken completely off the board. Hamas is losing in the Gaza Strip. They've effectively lost. They are now a low-level counterinsurgency. 23 out of 24 Hamas battalions in the Gaza Strip after October 7th have been completely wiped out and destroyed. Hezbollah, which was the gravest threat, the biggest, most well-armed terror group in the region, has now been thoroughly handled. Hezbollah will continue to be degraded en masse by the Israelis. Tens of thousands of members of Hezbollah have been fleeing across the Lebanese-Syrian border to get away from Israeli fire. And Iran, feeling that it was losing grip on all of these proxies, had to fire directly. Of course, the Houthis, another Iranian proxy group, had fired a cruise missile at Israel a little bit earlier this week, and Israel proceeded to blow up 2 ports that the Houthis were in control of. So Israel right now is saying to the entire Middle East that they are not going to be made subject to the whims of evil terrorist groups backed by Iran, and they are now making clear, and I'm sure they will make clear in coming hours and coming days, that they are perfectly willing to make clear to the Iranians that if they want it, they're going to get it. FAFO. Apparently, Ayatollah Khamenei is once again in hiding. He is correctly afraid that Israel will assassinate him the way that Israel assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, the way that Israel assassinated Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut. All of this missile fire was coincident with a large-scale shooting attack in the Israeli city of Jaffa that is located just south of Tel Aviv. 6 people killed on the street, plus the 2 terrorists. There was also an attempt in the so-called Netzarim corridor, which is an area of central Gaza, by some 80 terrorists to storm in an IDF position. The threat was neutralized, and no Israelis were hurt there. So what we are watching again is the Iranians gasp against the dying of the light. They can see that they are no longer in control of events in the Middle East. For too long, their tentacles have surrounded Israel, have attempted to strangle Israel. Israel has broken each one of those tentacles in turn. And now the head of the octopus is trying to strike at Israel, and Israel is going to strike the head of the octopus back. President Trump, of course, has issued a statement pointing out that none of this would have happened were he the president of the United States right now. Of course, he is exactly correct about that. His statement read, "The world is on fire and spiraling out of control. We have no leadership, no one running the country. We have a non-existent president in Joe Biden, a completely absent Vice President Kamala Harris, who is too busy fundraising in San Francisco, a city which she and Gavin Newsom totally destroyed, staging fake photo ops. No one's in charge. It's not even clear who's more confused, Biden or Kamala. Neither has any idea what is even going on. When I was president, Iran was in total check. They were starved for cash, fully contained, and desperate to make a deal. Kamala flooded them with American cash. Ever since, they've been exporting terror all over, unraveling the Middle East. Under President Trump, we had no war in the Middle East, no war in Europe, harmony in Asia, no inflation, no Afghanistan catastrophe. Instead, we had peace. Now, war or the threat of war is raging everywhere. The two incompetents running this country are leading us to the brink of World War III. You wouldn't trust Joe or Kamala to run a lemonade stand, let alone the free world," says Donald Trump. It's no surprise Iran desperately wants Kamala Harris to be president because they know as long as she is in power, they can take advantage of America. That is why they've tried to target me. If I was in charge, October 7th never would have happened. Russia-Ukraine never happens. Afghanistan botched withdrawal never happens. Inflation never happens. If I win, we'll have peace in the world again. If Kamala gets 4 more years, the world goes up in smoke. He is totally correct about that, obviously. And that should be what J.D. Vance says in the vice presidential debate tonight. Again, we do these live updates in real time because of our subscribers, our supporters. We really appreciate it. If you subscribe, you make it possible for us to bring you live breaking news updates like this. If you don't subscribe, please make sure to head over to dailywire.com right now. Get 47% off your subscription with code FIGHT. Please, again, subscribe. It helps us bring the news to you, bring you breaking news in real time the way that we are doing right now. Make sure that you also tune in tonight for our vice presidential debate coverage. It's a very, very busy day over here at Daily Wire. Again, make sure, head on over to subscribe, dailywire.com, and use code FIGHT for 47% off your annual membership. We'll see you in just a little bit.